Donald Trump's war against the modern British financial empire and its so-called globalist post-war rules-based order took a decisive leap forward this week as the Trump team was out and about explaining what they're doing to rebuild the economy. His economic team, led by J.D. Vance, conducted effectively a sort of national teach-in, educating Americans about the American system of economy that Trump is employing to rebuild the nation. At the center of their effort was an attack on the cheap labor policies which, either through outsourcing or uncontrolled immigration, have destroyed the American working and middle classes while making a whole lot of college-educated professionals and financial predators very, very rich. Trump also spoke to Vladimir Putin, a conversation which, just by the fact that it happened, reordered the entire strategic map. But those deranged minions of the old order did not sit silently by. They continued to lead what has become a violent, rage-filled resistance, both through corrupt and woke judges in the courts and through overt acts of terrorism targeting Elon Musk for assassination. I'm Barbara Boyd. This is your Saturday Wrap, and we'll focus on each of these topics either here or on the website this week. I'm going to cover the strategic situation in posts on the website, along with the continuing judicial insurrection against Trump and Musk. But I want to focus on economics here because that's what's important. Here's what Vice President J.D. Vance, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Trump's former trade representative and trade guru, Robert Lighthizer, said about Trump's economic plans, including tariffs, in various presentations in the national media this past week. Now, you've all seen the media hysteria about tariffs sparking a new round of inflation, about Elon Musk and Doge taking a meat cleaver with wild abandon to vital social programs, and about the last day's stock market dips as portending a new recession. It's all BS and a huge distraction from the major task before us all of actually rebuilding this economy. If you want to see what Musk and his very competent team are doing, he's made it available across the board on the Doge website, which is available through X. You can see it. They lay it all out. They're detailing and derailing how DC has operated for years through consultants and private contractors who are being paid handsomely for producing practically nothing. The fact that these guys can steal your money and not do it anymore is where all the rage against Trump and Musk is coming from. Now, the major promise of Trump's policy platform was that he would reorder the economy to benefit the working and middle classes, which have been under systemic attack for decades, via the offshoring of manufacturing and production, bank and other money system bailouts at their expense, starting with the one in 2008, the imposition of the so-called consumer and services economy, and the general imposition of a drug, pornography, and gambling-based culture as a form of modern Roman bread and circuses to keep the lower classes entertained and occupied while they were being destroyed. This economic model, of course, is doomed to collapse repeatedly and to foster inflation because reams of money are produced unattached to any physical goods. Trump promised in his campaign to dedicate himself to the forgotten men and women of the country, the working and middle classes, and to reorder the economy to favor them, to favor production, to favor building, with an overriding mission to rebuild a devastated economy and a broken culture and create a bright prosperity for everyone. That is exactly what he is doing now. But it is like performing major surgery in a moving operating room, where the people who benefited from the cancer in the patient are shooting at you. Vice President Vance gave one form of definitive outline, both about what is wrong with current economic thinking and the huge change Trump is building in a speech to the annual Dynamism Conference in Washington, D.C. last week. That's a gathering of the nation's entrepreneurs. He started by quoting from Pope John Paul. Through work, man must earn his daily bread and contribute to the continual advance of science and technology, and above all, to elevating unceasingly the cultural and moral level of the society within which he lives. That's the center of Catholic social teaching. It's also the center of the American system of political economy. Throughout, JD located economic wealth in the creative powers of human beings, their ability to create new modes of technologies, to make foundational scientific discoveries about the universe in which we live, and a culture which grounds itself in creating future prosperity for its children. He attacked the reigning notion of cheap labor being essential to economic success. He called it a disease, which resulted in the offshoring of America's manufacturing and industrial potentials, and which drastically lowered productivity both here and the countries we exported our capacities to. Yes, they made temporary gains and caught up, but the overall situation was a net loss because productivity was not increased across both cultures. The importation of huge numbers of immigrants by Biden suppressed wages here even more while destroying any ability to build a cohesive culture. You need such a culture to advance economically. Creative leaps and breakthroughs in the current technological and scientific palette of resources available to you creates economic success, he argued, and defines whether nations survive into the future or not. Although he didn't mention this, others attending the same conference argued this week that you don't catch up with China or others by simply striving to emulate their current technological platform, which is outpacing us in several respects. You have to leap over it to the next technological and scientific platform by discovering that new platform, something we Americans have always done, be it Henry Ford's assembly line, Edison's electricity, you can go on. That is until our recent descent into British imperial thinking about the nature of human beings and consequently about the nature of economics. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, a hugely successful Wall Street veteran, told the All In podcast and NBC's Meet the Press that he is not concerned about the stock market. And neither the stock market or various government and Fed measures of economic activity are real measures for defining economic progress. He said that Biden's economics had destroyed the working and middle classes by creating an inflationary crisis through overspending and by throwing gasoline on existing divisive economic trends. Wealthy people with assets profited hugely from Bidenomics since it inflated their assets. The middle and working classes were being systematically destroyed by an inflation which ate up all of their stagnant sources of income, and unchecked immigration furthered the suppression of wages. Thus, the economy Trump was handed was loaded with unpayable debt and was systemically unstable and headed toward a massive financial crisis. The Trump team is concentrating on heading that off. Bessent said that under Biden, we were being turned into something like a European social democracy, not the United States. To right the ship, you have to get manufacturing and industry back to the U.S. through tariffs and other incentives. You have to cut bloated, fraudulent, and inefficient things out of government spending. That's DOGE. You have to cut taxes and you have to lower the cost of energy by producing more for the modern economic and infrastructure platform you are creating. You have to figure out how to raise wages for the working and middle classes so that life becomes stable again for them. He compared the current outsourcing and cheap labor policies favored by both Republicans and Democrats alike to something akin to let them eat flat screens, a pathological fantasy that the ability to buy cheap goods based on cheap labor, obtained either through outsourcing or through uncontrolled immigration, make a human life. Unsurprisingly, Mike Pence trolled him after his appearances, saying that exactly that, cheap goods based on cheap labor, was in effect the modern American dream. In a long and very insightful interview with Tucker Carlson, Robert Lighthizer talked at length about tariffs, their huge previous role in American economic history, and the American system of economics, and have lambasted the way American economists and university professors think about economics. The key, Lighthizer said, is the educational and living standard of your workforce. If you want to know how an economy is doing, you can use just one metric: are working class and middle class wages rising? If they are, it means that production has been made less expensive and more efficient through technological breakthroughs in the production process. And that allows labor in turn to be paid a fair wage. Now, already, just weeks into the Trump administration, 9,000 new auto jobs were added this week. New plants or programs are planned by Stellantis, Honda, and Hyundai. The first new aluminum smelting furnace in 47 years will be built here. Trump is revitalizing and opening up the modern coal industry. There is a nuclear renaissance underway. In general, entrepreneurs see a new day has dawned and want to go to work building the future. Trump's economic ideas are all designed to facilitate that. That said, what are the actual problems in implementing this visionary program? Well, they revolve around the challenge of upskilling our present labor force for the jobs of the future, of an educational system that trains people rapidly in advanced sciences, engineering, and critical thinking, eliminating woke culture and concentrating on teaching math, sciences, history, and classical arts and culture. Eliminating the woke and broke education department, as Trump did this week, is a viable first step. The next step is to create in the states a curriculum which rapidly fosters and inculcates the creative minds necessary to build the future, and that, again, extremely rapidly. You have to have apprenticeship programs to train people right away. You have to have university curriculum dedicated to this, along with community colleges. People around Trump are studying both the World War II mobilization of industry and manufacturing and the impact of Kennedy's moon mission concerning this very process. Tonight, our own Susan Kokinda is giving a class on the World War II mobilization based on exactly the book by Arthur Herman, Freedom's Forge, which people in Trump's economic team are studying in order to make these changes. As you might know, our organizers will be in D.C. this week assessing the Congress, testing them on their knowledge of the American system of economics, which Trump is implementing. Most of them suffer from some form of British ideological economic conceits, which make them resistant to full implementation and thinking about what the president is actually doing. We'll be reporting back to you about what we find. It will shape our own policy campaigns around this, along with targeting some senators and congressmen in the 2026 midterms for our PAC. Since we're taking key organizers out of outreach and fundraising to perform this intelligence mission for you, we need your financial support for this effort. We're going to be reporting back, but please contribute as much as you possibly can to Promethean Action, to our website, so that we can continue this vital function. I'll see you again on Monday with a report highlighting the key events of the coming week. Thanks very, very much for listening.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.